Life only really goes downhill when you feel like you do not have control over a situation. When you cannot properly control your thoughts or your discipline, you cannot control your life. If you're allowing one bad moment to ruin your entire day, then I hate to break it to you, but you do not have control over your life. The only way that you can actually grow in your life is if you stop letting your past experiences, your friends, your family, your negative thoughts, you stop allowing those things to control the person that you are today. Because you should be the only person that can control your life, not these negative experiences that you have, not these other people in your life. Only you should be able to control that much of your life. And I'm gonna try to teach you exactly how to do that. So hopefully you're not the same person after you watch this video. So what exactly is control? How can we define that? What does that even look like? Especially when it's something so nuanced like controlling your life. What exactly is that? It's really difficult to pinpoint an answer to that question because everybody has all these misconceptions about what controlling your life actually looks like. For one person, it looks like waking up at 6 a.m. every morning. The other person looks like waking up at 10 a.m. For one person, it looks like going to the gym. Another person, it looks like just going to school and focusing on yourself. Controlling your life looks different to every person, but I feel like the one thing that can really connect all of these things is the feeling that you get when you are in control of your life. Despite all the different ways that people can be in control of their life, the one feeling that everybody's going to relate to is a feeling of freedom. That feeling that you have a choice. You can determine the things that happen in your life. You can determine how you're going to respond to a situation. And I can probably give a million examples about what control looks like in your life. But firstly, I want to give you examples of what it definitely does not look like. And this is the part where honesty is really the most important aspect of all of this. You've got to be honest with yourself. Does this sound like a situation that you're in? Does this sound similar to some of the experiences that you've had in the past or even currently? Having control of your life does not look like waking up at noon and still being tired. It does not look like drinking even though you said you were going to stop, smoking even though you said you were going to stop, allowing the people in your life to disrespect you, allowing yourself to disrespect yourself, breaking promises, going back to old habits, not fixing up your diet, not exercising, not taking care of yourself in general, treating the people in your life disrespectfully and then blaming past experiences for that, allowing somebody to take up a lot of space in your mind, waiting for a text back. These are all examples of not having control of your life. And it's such subtle stuff that you may feel like it's just basic human tendencies that you're exhibiting. But a lot of this stuff is a direct example of allowing other people or allowing negative thoughts or allowing your past experiences to control and dictate how your future looks. And of course, at the end of the day, you still control all of your actions. It's not like you just blacked out, you woke up and just ruined your entire life. You still control your actions, but when you allow these external factors to control your thoughts and allow you to behave differently than you would if you were your best version of yourself, it's almost like you're just driving and somebody else is steering the wheel. It's like you don't have control of where you go because you're allowing exterior factors to influence things that you subconsciously know you can do better with. So what exactly happens when you don't control your life? Because all of those situations that I listed, like of course it's bad stuff, but it's not some life-changing, life-detrimenting things. You probably heard some of those examples and thought to yourself, yeah, that happens, but it's not really that big of a deal. And maybe to an extent, yes, that stuff isn't necessarily a big deal at face value, but anything is a detrimental thing if it's too much. Any bit of a lack of control, especially when it's so much of it, is a breakage towards your mentality. It's a breakage towards your mindset. And those little things that we feel like aren't that big of a deal is the reason that we're in this constant loop of disrespecting ourselves and this constant loop of not taking control of the things that we need to take control over. The best way that I can put it is that if you do not control your life, you're letting your life control you. Like for example, if you don't deal with your body starts to deal with you by putting on extra fat or maybe losing extra fat that you don't want to lose. When you don't control your sleep schedule, your lack of sleep starts to control you by making you tired, by making you angry, by making you hangry, making you a bunch of stuff that you don't really want to be. But most importantly, when you do not control your mindset, you begin to let your mindset control you in a negative way or a positive way. And most of the time, our mentality just lingers towards that negative mindset for some reason. Every single time you allow your life to control you, you are giving up the opportunity to choose a better option. When you give up control, it's like you're giving up every ounce of power that you have in your life. And who wants to feel powerless, especially when it's something as personal as your own life. And really, I can speak from experience, take it from me. When you feel like you don't have the power to do anything, everything feels meaningless. It feels like there's no purpose in what you're doing because you have no power in it. And when I said I could speak from experience, I was for real. I can really speak from experience because my entire purpose with starting my entire self-growth journey when I was a freshman in high school was because I felt like I had no power, or I felt like I had no control over my life. It felt like I had no control over the way I looked. It felt like I had no control over if people liked me or not. It felt like I had no power in my life. And so I started to walk around my life like a victim. I started to behave like a victim. I started to feel like a victim. I started to just believe that I was a victim until I made a change, until I realized I could control myself. I could control the things around me. I can control the way that I feel. But yeah, back then, I definitely let my body control me. I was always putting myself in a bad mood because I looked at my body and I was just so disappointed with who I was. That lack of control that I had over the way that I looked put me in a position where I was constantly making myself feel worse because I couldn't control that about me until I started to actually control that. And as another example, I let my negative mindset control my life. I constantly felt like I was annoying. I constantly felt like the people in my life didn't like me. And it wasn't anything wrong with me personally. It was really my mindset not allowing me to change the things that I didn't like about myself, because I was so self-deprecating that I was allowing that mentality to control who I was. But when I started to actually take control of my life, it felt like an instant switch. It felt like I wasn't living on autopilot anymore. It felt like I was actually dictating the choices that of course I was dictating in the past, but I was actually dictating them now. I was actually making these choices for myself with my proper mindset. Before I took that control, I didn't feel like I was experiencing life. I felt like life was just constantly happening to me. But after that, I felt freedom. I felt like I was actually controlling. I felt like I was actually living the life that I was intended to live. And this is the part where I explain exactly what I did to take control of my life. And I've already got a list of things that I've done that I've compiled, which I'm just going to call the principles of control. And honestly, it sounds really dramatic. I promise you it's not. But yeah, these are my principles of control. The first principle is really consistent with the rest of the videos on my channel, but it's really put yourself in a mindset of control. You have got to believe that you can control your life. You have got to put yourself in a position to believe that the things happening to you are not happening to you. They're happening for you. They're happening to elevate you in your life. They're helping you to become the person that you want to become. Get yourself out of an I can't mentality and put yourself in an I can mentality. Because I promise you that's going to take you a lot farther than believing that something is out of reach for you. It never matters how unattainable something may seem. You will never accomplish that thing if you don't believe that you can accomplish it. Regardless of how delusional you have got to be, you have got to put yourself in a mindset that you can control the outcome and you can control how you approach that situation. For example, looking in the perspective of somebody that wants to stop drinking or somebody that wants to quit any addiction that they have, get yourself out of a mindset that you're being controlled by this situation or by this addiction. Put yourself in the mindset that you can control this addiction. Don't sit here and say, I don't want to drink anymore. This is really tough for me. Say, no, I'm not going to drink anymore. I'm done drinking. I don't drink anymore. The difference between I don't want to do that anymore and I don't do that anymore is so subtle, but it is so important at the same time. Because the first one just sounds like you're waiting for that addiction to come back. You're waiting for that addiction to eventually overpower you. And the second one seems more like you are controlling this addiction. You are putting yourself in a position to just say, nah, I don't do that anymore. I don't feel like doing that anymore. The way that you phrase it gives you the power, and that's what putting yourself in a mindset of control looks like. I say it all the time. I swear it's like a slogan for me at this point. But the things that you tell yourself, you are going to believe, regardless of what that thing is. Your mindset and your belief system is the most important thing that you can even start with. And the second principle that I have is making sure that you control your actions and really just having discipline. And this is never going to be perfect. There's not a single person on the planet that is 100% disciplined, I can promise you that. But any little step goes a long way. You are never going to be perfect, and that imperfection does not define you. The thing that does define you is your consistency, the things that you're trying to do every single day, regardless if it gets accomplished 100% every single day. The way that I personally found freedom and took control of my life was because I controlled something, whether it's small or not, I controlled something every single day. And mostly for me, it was just exercise. I was controlling the way that I trained my body pretty much every single day. And despite when I looked in the mirror and sometimes it felt like I just wasn't making progress, or despite feeling like I was wasting my time, the fact that I was controlling something and then by the end of it feeling so accomplished, it really showed me that the only thing it costs to show up is your time. And the thing it costs to not show up is regret, and regret lasts a lifetime. Every single time that I exercised, it was less about wanting to build that discipline straight up, and it was more about just wanting to control something. Like, you built that discipline not just by one thing. Like, it's not just by exercising every single day or studying every single day. Discipline can be built towards multiple different things, and all of it benefits you the exact same way. When I built the discipline to say no to skipping a workout, it helped me build the discipline to say no to, let's say, sleeping in, or say no to just disrespecting myself in general. That discipline doesn't just get built for one thing. That discipline helps you control all of your actions. When you control one action, it's like a butterfly effect that helps you control everything else. The next thing is to make sure that the people in your life, and it doesn't even just have to be people, it can be things as well, but make sure that the people in your life are attachments to your life and not your entire life. And I feel like this is really just some emotional mastery. Make sure that you are actively working towards controlling your emotions, because your emotions dictate you far more than your physical body will ever dictate you. The way that you feel is always going to control you. And that's because your body thinks emotionally before it can physically think rationally. And that's just basic psychology. You have got to find some way to try to control your emotions and control how you feel on a day-to-day basis. And for me, like I said, it was really just making sure that the people in my life were adding to it. They weren't becoming the focus of my life. You have no control over a life that you are allowing another person to become the focus of, because it's just showing that you don't have a life outside of that person. You cannot actively grow for yourself or improve the way that you want to if you're not improving for yourself, if you're just improving for this other person, or improving so this other person can stay in your life or whatever. You have got to find the emotional mastery and control yourself enough to dictate whether the people in your life are there for you to be attachments, or if they're there to just control your life. And then you've got to find the emotional intelligence to put yourself first and establish your boundaries and actually voice those boundaries. Voice your concerns, voice your opinions with your life, especially if it's going to help you control the way that you feel and control the way that your life is behaving around you. It's not selfish, it's not mean, it's not controlling to establish boundaries. It's simply being emotionally mature and understanding yourself effectively enough to navigate the way that you behave around other people. And the next one is probably one of my favorites. The next thing that I did to get control of my life was really just accept failure and be welcoming towards failure. I know that it might seem like when we fail, we have no control over certain things, but the way that I love to see it is that I can now control how I'm going to move in the future based off of this failure. This failure just taught me something that's not going to work. And now I can choose to build upon that. I can choose to not do it again. I can choose to do it again and see if it was just a one-off failure. That failure opens up so many opportunities to succeed in the future. And I feel like we need to be more open and welcoming towards this failure in our lives and just stop trying to run from it. Because the only way that you can grow is if you fail. I just saw something on Instagram. I'm pretty sure it was AI, but it was also a good message, so I'm going to share it anyway. But it pretty much said, I'm strong because I was weak. I'm smart because I was clueless. And it just went on from there. The way that we grow is if we are welcoming to failure. The way that we can control our lives is if we allow these failures to happen so we can dictate how we move in the future. If you fear failure and you're running from that feeling, you're unintentionally allowing that failure to control the person that you are and control how you're moving on a day-to-day basis. A prime example of control is simply accepting this failure, allowing that stuff to happen instead of just sitting here and trying to run from it. Because that person that knows how to navigate life through failure is in much more control than the person that constantly runs from it. Unfortunately, I can't say everything in this video, so if you want a part 2, let me know. I've definitely got a lot more to say. And also, I've got a bunch of playlists pretty much explaining a bunch of these things in a lot more detail. So if you're interested in that, just check those out. But yeah, I hope this video helps somebody. I appreciate you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.